counterfeit money is imitation currency produced without the legal sanction of the state government. Producing or using counterfeit money is a form of fraud or forgery. Counterfeiting is almost as old as money itself. Plated copies have been found of Lydian coins, which are thought to be among the first Western coins. Before the introduction of paper money, the most prevalent method of counterfeiting involved mixing base metals with pure gold or silver. A form of counterfeiting is the production of documents by legitimate printers in response to fraudulent instructions. During World War II, the Nazis forged British pounds and American dollars. Today some of the finest counterfeit banknotes are called superdollars because of the high quality and likeness to the real US dollar. There has been significant counterfeiting of euro banknotes and coins since the launch of the currency in 2002, but considerably less than for the US dollar. Some of the ill effects that counterfeit money has on society include a reduction in the value of real money, and increase in prices due to more money getting circulated in the economy, an unauthorized artificial increase in the money supply, a decrease in the acceptability of paper money, and losses when traders are not reimbursed for counterfeit money detected by banks, even if it is confiscated. Traditionally, anti-counterfeiting measures involved including fine detail with raised intaglio printing on bills, which allows non-experts to easily spot forgeries. On coins, milled or reeded edges are used to show that none of the valuable metal has been scraped off. History. Counterfeiting is as old as money itself, and is sufficiently prevalent throughout history that it has been called the world's second oldest profession. Coinage of money began in the Greek city of Lydia around 600 BC. Before the introduction of paper money, the most prevalent method of counterfeiting involved mixing base metals with pure gold or silver. A common practice was to shave the edges of a coin. This is known as clipping. Precious metals collected in this way could be used to produce counterfeit coinage. A 4A is an ancient type of counterfeit coin, in which a base metal core has been plated with a precious metal to resemble its solid metal counterpart. When paper money was introduced in China in the 13th century, wood from mulberry trees was used to make the money. To control access to the paper, guards were stationed around mulberry forests while counterfeiters were punished by death. In the 13th century, Mastro Adamo was mentioned by Dante Alighieri as a counterfeiter of the Florentine Fiorino, punished with death by hanging. The English couple Thomas and Anne Rogers were convicted on the 15th of October 1694, clipping 40 pieces of silver. Thomas Rogers was hanged, drawn and quartered, while Anne Rogers was burnt alive. Evidence supplied by an informant led to the arrest of the last of the English coiners, King David Hartley, who was executed by hanging in 1770. The extreme forms of punishment were meted out for acts of treason against state or crown, rather than simple crime. Similarly, in America, colonial paper currency printed by Benjamin Franklin and others often bore the phrase "to counterfeit his death." The theory behind such harsh punishments was that one who had the skills to counterfeit currency was considered a threat to the safety of the state, and had to be eliminated. Another explanation is the fact that issuing money that people could trust was both an economic imperative, as well as a royal prerogative. Therefore, counterfeiting was a crime against the state or ruler itself, rather than against the person who received the fake money. Far more fortunate was an earlier practitioner of the same art, active in the time of the Emperor Justinian. Rather than executing Alexander the Barber, the emperor chose to employ his use talents in the government's own service. Nations have used counterfeiting as a means of warfare. The idea is to overflow the enemy's economy with fake banknotes, so that the real value of the money plummets. Great Britain did this during the American Revolutionary War to reduce the value of the continental dollar. The counterfeiters for the British were known as shovers, presumably for the ability to shove the fake currency into circulation. Two of the most well-known shovers for the British during the Revolutionary War were David Farnsworth and John Blair. They were caught with $10,000 in counterfeits when arrested. George Washington took a personal interest in their case and even called for them to be tortured to discover further information. They were eventually hanged for their crimes. During the American Civil War, the Confederate States dollar was heavily counterfeited by private interests on the Union side, often without the sanction of the Union government in Washington. The Confederacy's access to modern printing technology was limited, while many Northern-made imitations were printed on high-quality banknote paper, procured through extra-legal means. As a result, counterfeit Southern notes were often equal or even superior in quality compared to genuine Confederate money. In 1834, counterfeit copper coins manufactured in the United States were seized from several ships with American flags in Brazil. The practice seemed to end after that. Instances. A form of counterfeiting is the production of documents by legitimate printers in response to fraudulent instructions. An example of this is the Portuguese banknote crisis of 1925, when the British banknote printers Waterloo and Sons produced Banco de Portugal notes equivalent in value to 0.88% of the Portuguese nominal gross domestic product, with identical serial numbers to existing banknotes, in response to a fraud perpetrated by Alves dos Reis. Similarly, in 1929 the issue of postage stamps celebrating the millennium of Iceland's parliament, the Althing, was compromised by the insertion of 1 on the print order, before the authorized value of stamps to be produced. In 1926 a high-profile counterfeit scandal came to light in Hungary, when several people were arrested in the Netherlands while attempting to procure 10 million francs worth of fake French 1,000 franc bills which had been produced in Hungary. After 3 years, the state-sponsored industrial-scale counterfeit operation had finally collapsed. The League of Nations investigation found Hungary's motives were to avenge its post-World War I territorial losses and to use profits from the counterfeiting business to boost a militarist, border revisionist ideology. Germany and Austria had an active role in the conspiracy, which required special machinery. The quality of fake bills was still substandard, however, owing to France's use of exotic raw paper material imported from its colonies. During World War II, the Nazis attempted to implement a similar plan against the Allies. The Nazis took Jewish artists in the Sachsenhausen concentration camp and forced them to forge British pounds and American dollars. The quality of the counterfeiting was very good, and it was almost impossible to distinguish between the real and fake bills. Unable to enact planned aerial drops of the counterfeits over Britain, most notes were disposed of and not recovered until the 1950s. Today some of the finest counterfeit banknotes are called superdollars because of the high quality and likeness to the real US dollar. The sources of such supernotes are disputed, with North Korea being vocally accused by US authorities. The amount of counterfeit United States currency is estimated to be less than $3 per $10,000, with less than $3 per $100,000 being difficult to detect. There has been a rapid growth in the counterfeiting of euro banknotes and coins since the launch of the currency in 2002. In 2003, 551,287 fake euro notes and 26,191 bogus euro coins were removed from EU circulation. In 2004, French police seized fake €10 and €20 notes worth a total of around €1.8 million from 2 laboratories and estimated that 145,000 notes had already entered circulation. In the early years of the 21st century, the United States Secret Service has noted a substantial reduction in the quantity of forged U.S. currency, as counterfeiters turned their attention towards the euro. A batch of counterfeit $50 and $100 notes were released into the Australian city of Melbourne in July 2013. As of July 12, 2013, 40 reports had been made between the northern suburbs of Heidelberg and Epping. Police spokespersons explained to the public and media reports that the currency notes were printed on paper and could be easily detected by scrunching up the note or tearing it. Additionally, the clear window within the notes was also an easy way to identify fake versions, as the window appears to have been cut out with 2 clear plastic pieces stuck together with stars placed in the middle to replicate the Southern Cross. Police also revealed that fake notes had been seized in June 2013 in Melbourne's eastern and western suburbs. According to the Australian RBA figures, during 2014-15, the number of counterfeit $50 currency detected in circulation has more than doubled from the previous year, and more than 33,000 fake notes were removed from circulation. The officials believe this likely a fraction of the amount of fake currencies currently flooding through in Victoria and NSW states. On the 31st of May 2016, the ACT police have warned people to keep an eye out for fake $50 notes, which is circulating throughout Canberra in recent months. The officers have been called out to more than 35 businesses over the past 2 months in connection to counterfeit $50 notes. Effects on society. Some of the ill effects that counterfeit money has on society are: companies are not reimbursed for counterfeits. This forces them to increase prices of commodities. As such, there is a reduction in the value of real money, increase in prices due to more money getting circulated in the economy, an unauthorized artificial increase in the money supply, decrease in the acceptability of money. Payees may demand electronic transfers of real money, a payment in another currency. At the same time, in countries where paper money is a small fraction of the total money in circulation, the macroeconomic effects of counterfeiting of currency may not be significant. The microeconomic effects, such as confidence in currency, however, may be large. Anti-counterfeiting measures. Traditionally, anti-counterfeiting measures involved including fine detail with raised intaglio printing on bills, which would allow non-experts to easily spot forgeries. On coins, milled reeded edges are used to show that none of the valuable metal has been scraped off. This detects the shaving or clipping of the rim of the coin. However, it does not detect sweating or shaking coins in a bag and collecting the resulting dust. Since this technique removes a smaller amount, it is primarily used on the most valuable coins, such as gold. In early paper money in colonial North America, one creative means of deterring counterfeiters was to print the impression of a leaf in the bill. Since the patterns found in a leaf were unique and complex, they were nearly impossible to reproduce. In the late 20th century, advances in computer and photocopy technology made it possible for people without sophisticated training to copy currency easily. In response, national engraving bureaus began to include include new, more sophisticated anti-counterfeiting systems such as holograms, multicolored bills, embedded devices such as strips, microprinting, watermarks and inks whose colors change depending on the angle of the light, and the use of design features such as the Urian constellation, which disables modern photocopiers. Software programs such as Adobe Photoshop have been modified by the manufacturers to obstruct manipulation of scanned images of banknotes. There also exist patches to counteract these measures. Recently, there has been a discovery of new tests that could be used on U.S. Federal Reserve notes to ensure that the bills are authentic. These tests are done using intrinsic fluorescence lifetime. This allows for detection of counterfeit money because of the significant indifference of fluorescence lifetime when compared to authentic money. For U.S. currency, anti-counterfeiting milestones are as follows. 1996 $100 bill gets a new design with a larger portrait. 1997 $50 bill gets a new design with a larger portrait. 1998 $20 bill gets a new design with a larger portrait. 2010 bill and $5 bill get a new design with a larger portrait. 2003 $20 bill gets a new design with no oval around Andrew Jackson's portrait and more colors. 2004 $50 bill gets a new design with no oval around Ulysses S. Grant's portrait and more colors. 2006 $10 bill gets a new design with no oval around Alexander Hamilton's portrait and more colors. 2008 $5 bill gets a new design with no oval around Abraham Lincoln's portrait and more colors. 2010 $100 bill gets a new design with no oval around Benjamin Franklin's portrait and more colors. The redesigned $100 bill was unveiled on April 21, 2010, and the Federal Reserve Board was to begin issuing the new bill on February 10, 2011, but the release was delayed until October 2013. The Treasury had made no plans to redesign the $5 bill using colors, but recently reversed its decision, after learning some counterfeiters were bleaching the ink off the bills and printing them as $100 bills. The new $10 bill entered circulation on March 2, 2006. The $1 bill and $2 bill are seen by most counterfeiters as having too low a value to counterfeit, and so they have not been redesigned as frequently as higher denominations. In the 1980s, counterfeiting in the Republic of Ireland twice resulted in sudden changes in official documents. In November 1984, the £1 postage stamp, also used on savings cards for paying television licenses and telephone bills, was invalidated and replaced by another design at a few days' notice because of widespread counterfeiting. Later, the £20 Central Bank of Ireland Series B banknote was rapidly replaced because of what the finance minister described as the involuntary privatization of banknote printing. In the 1990s, the portrait of Chairman Mao Zedong was placed on the banknotes of the People's Republic of China to combat counterfeiting, as he was recognized better than the generic designs on the renminbi notes. In 1988, the Reserve Bank of Australia released the world's first long-lasting and counterfeit-resistant polymer banknotes with a special, bicentennial $10 note issue. After problems with this bill were discovered and addressed, in 1992 a problem-free $5 note was issued. In 1996, Australia became the first country to have a full series of circulating polymer banknotes. On 3 May 1999, the New Zealand Reserve Bank started circulating polymer banknotes printed by Note Printing Australia Limited. The technology developed is now used in 26 countries. Note Printing Australia is currently printing polymer notes for 18 countries. The Swiss National Bank has a reserve series of notes for the Swiss franc bill, in case widespread counterfeiting were to take place. Penalties by country for creating counterfeit money. Canada S. 450 of the Criminal Code makes counterfeiting money an indictable offense, with a maximum term of 14 years imprisonment. Poland. Polish Penalty Code Article 310 specifies 5 to 25 years of imprisonment. United States. Fraudulent creation or alteration of United States currency is an offense punishable by fine, imprisonment for a fixed term of no more than 20 years, or both. List of notable counterfeiters. Peter Alston was the late 18th century and early 19th century counterfeiter and river pirate, who is believed to be Little Harp's associate and partner in the murder of notorious outlaw leader Samuel Mason in 1803. Philip Alston was an 18th century counterfeiter both before and after the American Revolution in Virginia and the Carolinas before the war, and later in Kentucky and Illinois afterwards. Anastasios Naouti, a British counterfeiter of more than £2.5 million in fake money, sentenced in 2005. Frank Bourassa, a Canadian counterfeiter that set up a secret money printing operation capable of printing $250 million USD in counterfeit bills. He spent a month and a half in a Canadian jail in 2014, in agreement to not be extradited to the U.S. for prosecution. Edward Bonney, an alleged counterfeiter in northern Indiana, who escaped to Nauvoo, Illinois, was a bounty hunter and amateur detective, posed as a counterfeiter, to apprehend the murderers of Colonel George Davenport and infiltrate the Midwestern banditti of the prairie. Abel Buell, American colonialist and Republican who went from altering £5 note engraving plates to publishing the first map of the new United States, created by an American. Mary Butterworth, a counterfeiter in colonial America. William Challoner, a British counterfeiter convicted by Sir Isaac Newton and hanged on 16 March 1699. Mike de Bardelaban was sent to prison for counterfeiting the $20 bill. Alves dos Reis, who by the end of 1925 had managed to introduce escudo banknotes worth £1,007,963 at 1925 exchange rates into the Portuguese economy, which was equivalent to 0.88% of Portugal's nominal GDP at the time. John Duff was a counterfeiter, hunter, and soldier who served in George Rogers Clark's campaign to capture the Illinois country for the Patriot American side during the Revolutionary War. Eric Clipping v. the King of Denmark. The king's nickname refers to clipping of the coin. David Farnsworth was a British loyalist counterfeiter and spy in the American Revolutionary War. He was hanged for his crimes after George Washington had taken a personalized interest in his case. King David Hartley was the leader of the Cragvale coiners of rural 18th century England, producing fake gold coins. He was eventually captured and hanged at Tyburn near York on April 28, 1770 and buried in the village of Heptonstall, W. Yorks. His brother Isaac escaped the authorities and lived until 1815. Stephen Jory, Great Britain's most renowned counterfeiter, started his career by selling cheap perfume in designer bottles. He later established his own illegal printing operation to produce and distribute an estimated £5 billion in counterfeit currency throughout the United Kingdom. Edward Mueller, documented in Mr. 880, he was possibly the longest uncaught counterfeiter in history. For 10 or more years, he eluded government authorities while he printed and spent fake $1 bills in his New York neighborhood. Catherine Murphy, convicted of coining in 1789 and was the last woman to suffer execution by burning in England. John A. Merrill, a legendary bandit operating in the United States along the Mississippi River in the mid-19th century, convicted for his crimes in the Circuit Court of Madison County, Tennessee. Merrill was incarcerated in the Tennessee State Penitentiary, modeled after the Auburn penal system from 1834 to 1844. King Philip the Fair of France caused riots and was known as the Counterfeiter King for emitting coinage that was debased compared to the standards that had been prevalent during the half-century previous to his reign. Sturtevant Gang, a multi-generational group of American counterfeiters whose criminal activities took place over a 50-year period from colonial Connecticut to the Illinois frontier. Albert Alton was sent to prison for counterfeiting the United States $100 bill and the United States $20 bill, produced over $7 million in counterfeit U.S. currency using a standard inkjet printer, and was convicted and sent to prison in May 2009. Samuel C. Upham, the first known counterfeiter of Confederate money during the American Civil War. His activities began or became known in early July 1862. Wesley Weber, imprisoned in 2001 for counterfeiting the Canadian $100 bill. Arthur Williams, imprisoned in 2007 for counterfeiting the United States $100 bill. Money art. Money art is a subject related to counterfeiting. It is art that incorporates currency designs or themes. Some of these works of art are similar enough to actual bills that the legality is in question. While a counterfeit is made with deceptive intent, money art is not. However, the law may or may not differentiate between the two. J.S.G. Boggs is an American artist best known for his hand-drawn, one-sided copies of U.S. banknotes, which he sells for the face value of the note. The street artist Banksy is known for making £10 notes that feature Princess Diana's portrait in place of the Queen, while Bank of England is replaced by Banksy of England. The artist's original intent was to throw them off a building, but after some of the notes were dropped at a festival, he discovered that they could pass for legal tender and changed his mind. As of 2012, Banksy is still in possession of all £100 million worth of the currency. In 2006, American artist Jack Dawes hired metalsmiths to make a mold of a 1970 US penny and cast it in 18-karat gold. He then hired another metalsmith to copper-plate it, after which it looked like an ordinary penny. On March 28, 2007, Dawes intentionally put the penny in circulation at Los Angeles International Airport. The sculpture was discovered in Brooklyn 2.5 years later by Jessica Reed, a graphic designer and coin collector, who noticed it while paying for groceries at a local store. Reed eventually communicated with Dawes' Seattle art dealer, the Greg Kucera Gallery, and Dawes confirmed that she had discovered the counterfeit penny sculpture.